Hello, my friend. Welcome to our story today, a story filled with fire, ambition, courage, and destiny. Today, we are going to learn English through the amazing life of Alexander the Great. Imagine a young boy, only 20 years old, who stood on the edge of history and said, "The world is not enough." This is his story. A story that will inspire you, surprise you, and teach you new words, emotions, and powerful lessons about life. So sit back, relax, and let your heart travel back in time to ancient Greece, where a young prince was born, not to live a normal life, but to change the world forever. The sun was shining over the city of Pella, the capital of Macedonia. It was July 356 BC. The air was warm, and the palace was full of celebration. A baby boy had just been born to King Philip II and Queen Olympias. They named him Alexander. No one could imagine, not even his parents, that this little child would grow up to become one of the greatest military leaders in the history of the world. Alexander was different from the start. He didn't cry much. He listened carefully. He loved stories. His favorite story was about Achilles, the brave hero of the Trojan War. His mother told him, "You are not just a prince. You are the blood of the gods." From a very young age, Alexander believed it. When he was a child, his father brought him the greatest teacher in the world, Aristotle. Yes, the same Aristotle who was a student of Plato. Imagine that. Alexander, still a teenager, learning from one of the wisest minds in history. Aristotle didn't just teach him philosophy, science, and politics. He also taught him about honor, leadership, and curiosity. Alexander loved to learn. He asked deep questions. He read everything, but most of all, he wanted to see the world. Alexander was also a warrior. His father, King Philip, built a powerful army. One day when Alexander was only 12 years old, a wild and dangerous horse came to the palace. No one could ride it. It kicked and screamed. Everyone was afraid, but not Alexander. He walked up to the horse, whispered something in its ear, and rode it like he had done it 100 times. That horse, named Bucephalus, became Alexander's companion for life. From that day, everyone knew. This boy was special. Years passed. Alexander became stronger, smarter, and more confident. But then, something terrible happened. His father was murdered. Alexander was only 20. Many people thought he was too young to be king. But Alexander didn't hesitate. He took control. He silenced his enemies. And he promised something that shocked the world. "I will conquer the Persian Empire." Now, my friend, imagine this. The Persian Empire was the largest in the world. It stretched across Asia, from Egypt to India. Its army was huge, millions of soldiers. And here was Alexander, just a young man, with a small army, ready to fight the most powerful empire on earth. People laughed. They said it was impossible. But Alexander smiled and said, "Nothing is impossible for the one who dares." And so, the great journey began. In 334 BC, Alexander crossed the Hellespont, today's Dardanelles Strait, into Asia. Before stepping on land, he threw a spear into the ground and declared, "This land belongs to me." His first battle was at the river Granicus. Persian soldiers waited on the other side. The water was deep, the current was strong, and the enemy was ready. But Alexander didn't wait. He led the charge himself, his sword shining, his horse galloping. His soldiers followed, screaming his name, victory. One battle after another, Alexander kept winning. He used intelligence, not just power. He studied his enemies. He moved fast. He surprised them. His most famous battle came at a place called Gaugamela. The Persian king Darius III had a massive army, over 100,000 men. But Alexander had courage. At night, he slept like a baby. When his generals asked, "Why are you so calm?" he said, "Because tomorrow we will win." And they did. Alexander used clever tactics. He broke through the Persian lines and made Darius run away. He didn't just win the battle, he broke the Persian Empire. After that day, he was no longer just the king of Macedonia. He became the king of kings. But Alexander did not stop. He went to Egypt. The people there welcomed him as a god. He built a city and named it Alexandria. Then he moved east, through deserts, mountains, and rivers. Nothing stopped him. He entered modern-day Iran, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. He fought in valleys, crossed freezing rivers, and climbed impossible heights. Finally, he reached India. There he faced one of his hardest battles against King Porus, who brought elephants into war. Alexander had never seen anything like it. The elephants were huge and terrifying. But once again, Alexander used his mind. He moved his army in a new formation and won. After the battle, Alexander did something surprising. He did not kill King Porus. Instead, he asked him, "How would you like to be treated?" And Porus answered, "Like a king." Alexander smiled and said, "Then that is how I shall treat you." He gave Porus his kingdom back and gained his loyalty forever. That, my friend, is true greatness. But even great men have limits. Alexander wanted to go further. He wanted to reach the end of the world, but his soldiers were tired. They had been fighting for years. They missed home. They begged Alexander to stop. At last, he agreed. They turned back. But on the way home, something began to change. Alexander grew quiet. He missed his mother who had stayed in Macedonia. He missed his old teacher, Aristotle. He missed his horse, Bucephalus, who had died during one of the battles. Alexander, the man who had never lost a war, was now fighting an invisible enemy: loneliness. Then, in Babylon, one of the great cities he had conquered, he fell sick. Some say it was a fever. Others believe he was poisoned. For days, he could not speak. His generals cried. His soldiers waited outside his room, hoping for a miracle. Finally, someone asked him, "Alexander, to whom do you leave your empire?" And he whispered, "To the strongest." Those were his last words. He died in 323 BC at the age of 32. Just 32, my friend, and he had conquered the known world. Now take a deep breath. What a story, right? Alexander's body was gone, but his legend lived on. His name echoed through history, his ideas, his cities, his battles. They changed the world forever. He taught us that greatness is not about how long you live, but how deeply you dare to live. He showed the world that knowledge and courage are stronger than fear. That kindness, even in war, is a mark of strength, and that the greatest leaders are the ones who lead from the front, who fight beside their people, not from behind them. My friend, you have just traveled across time and continents. You learned new words, new ideas, and most importantly, you felt something. That is the power of stories. So what can we learn from Alexander the Great? We learn that youth is not a weakness. It's a weapon when used with wisdom. We learn that curiosity leads to greatness. And we learn that the world will always remember those who dare to dream big, act bold, and live with passion. Maybe you are not a king. Maybe you don't have an army. But in your own life, you are a warrior. You have battles to fight, dreams to chase, fears to conquer. And just like Alexander, you have the power to change your world. So never stop learning, never stop growing, and never forget, the greatest empires begin in the heart. Thank you for listening, my friend. If you enjoyed this story and learned something new, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We'll be back soon with more amazing stories to help you learn English and learn about life. Until then, stay curious, stay brave, and remember, your story is just beginning.